Ever wonder how, like, that smartphone you're probably listening to this on right now, how it gets from some factory who knows where to your pocket?
Or that rice you might have had with dinner last night. How'd that even start?
Yeah, that's the whole world of supply chains.
Exactly. The systems that move products all around the world. It's incredible.
And today we're going to take a deep dive into two main types.
Linear and networked.
Right.
And, they're like two different roadmaps for getting products from, point A all the way to the consumer point Z.
I like that, roadmaps.
Yeah. One's like a straight highway and the other is like a big web of all these interconnected roads.
Right. They both have their pluses and minuses, of course.
Oh, definitely.
So let's start with the simple one.
Okay.
Linear supply chains.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our research actually highlighted Malaysia's rice industry as a really good example of this.
Classic.
Yeah, it's like a really easy step-by-step process.
Totally.
Farmers, they harvest the paddy.
Yep.
It goes to the mills to be processed.
Then it goes off to wholesalers for distribution, and then finally the retailer to you.
Boom, there it is on your plate.
Exactly.
Linear chains, they really depend on predictability.
Mm-hmm.
They're efficient. They're cost-effective. They're pretty easy to manage, actually.
Makes sense.
Which is why they work so well for industries where there's always a demand, like food staples.
Right. We got to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Nestle's Milo production that was in the research, too.
Oh, yeah. Good example.
Pretty straightforward. Cocoa beans and Milo powder out to the shelves it goes.
Yeah, it's like an assembly line almost.
Yeah. Okay, so linear chains, they're good when things are running smoothly.
Right.
But what happens when something disrupts that chain?
Oh, yeah.
Like a natural disaster or maybe demand suddenly spikes for some reason.
That's where you see those weaknesses.
Yeah.
Because any disruption, any little hiccup along the way.
At any point.
Yeah, it can mess everything up.
Domino effect.
Delays, shortages, you name it.
Yeah.
It's trouble.
So, like our research mentioned palm oil production in Malaysia.
Right.
So let's say a flood hits Sabah.
Oh, no.
And it really messes up that palm oil harvest. Suddenly that whole downstream process.
Everything gets messed up.
Processing, distribution, everything.
That's a huge risk for these businesses, especially nowadays when things change so fast.
All the time.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to networked supply chains.
Yes, so instead of that straight line, it's more like a spider web, a much more complex system, lots of different suppliers, lots of alternative routes to get things where they need to go.
So instead of 1 weak link, you've got this kind of safety net built in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Network chains, they give you more flexibility and they're way more resilient.
Because if one supplier has a problem, another one could just kind of step right in.
Pick up the slack. Yep. That's really interesting. So, the research used Malaysia's electronics sector as a really good example.
Perfect example.
Imagine like an Intel chip, right? The raw materials are coming from all these different countries.
All over the place.
The components are manufactured in all these different places. Then it's assembled somewhere like Penang.
Right.
And then finally the product is shipped all over the world.
Globally.
It's a complicated dance.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly adaptable.
Very adaptable.
And then there's also Petronas Malaysia's big oil and gas giant.
Oh, yeah, they're a good example.
They've created this really complex network.
Super sophisticated.
Of suppliers and distribution channels.
Which means they're way less vulnerable to those disruptions.
So if one pathway's blocked,
they've got another one ready to go.
That's impressive. So network chains kind of sound like the perfect solution.
Oh, yeah.
But imagine all this complexity has to come with a price tag, right?
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
It's not easy managing a networked supply chain.
I can imagine.
It takes these sophisticated systems and, constantly, you got to be coordinating everything. Think of it like conducting an orchestra.
Okay.
All these different instruments playing their parts.
Yeah.
But they all have to be, in sync.
Working together.
Yeah, exactly.
For the music to sound good.
Right. So instead of a conductor's baton,
right,
you need advanced IT systems, real-time tracking.
Wow.
Even technologies like blockchain.
To keep everything running smoothly.
Yeah. And that can get expensive.
Right.
Especially for smaller businesses.
Right.
They may not have the money to invest in all these complex systems.
Makes sense. So it's like a trade-off.
Yeah.
Linear chains are simpler and cheaper.
More straightforward.
But network chains are more resilient, but they're also more complex and more expensive to manage.
Exactly. It all comes down to, the industry.
Yeah.
The product, the level of risk a company's willing to take on.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit.
Okay.
So if we're talking about something like basic food staples.
Yeah.
Where the demand's pretty steady and predictable. linear chain makes sense.
Makes sense.
But for things like high-tech gadgets or oil and gas,
Yeah.
where things are changing really quickly
Unpredictable.
and disruptions are more likely,
Yeah.
network chain seems like the way to go.
Seems like a safer bet.
Yeah.
It's all about finding that sweet spot, that balance between efficiency and resilience.
It's interesting.
That's what makes supply chain management so fascinating.
It really is. It's like this giant puzzle, right?
It is. It is.
Figuring out the most efficient and reliable way to get stuff from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And it sounds like there's no one right answer.
No, there isn't.
It depends.
Each industry, each product, it's all unique. It's got its own challenges, its own requirements.
So to recap,
Yeah.
linear chains are like these reliable workhorses,
Okay.
great for stable industries and predictable products.
Makes sense.
But network chains,
Yeah.
they're more like agile acrobats.
I like that.
They're ready to adapt and overcome any obstacle.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. And I think this leads us to a really important question
Okay.
for you, the listener.
Okay, I like this.
Think about something you buy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's your smartphone. Maybe it's a pair of shoes.
Right.
Maybe it's that bag of rice we talked about earlier.
Yeah, can you imagine the journey it took to actually get to you?
Yeah.
Was it a straight shot or was it more of a winding path?
Yeah. Take a second and really visualize it. Those raw materials,
The manufacturing.
the transportation, all of it, the
Yeah.
whole network involved.
It's like we're product detectives.
Yeah.
We're tracing the footsteps of our favorite things.
I love that. And you might be surprised by what you find.
I bet.
Understanding, what kind of supply chain a product uses,
Yeah.
that can really give you a whole new perspective.
How so?
Well, it can help you understand why some products are more expensive than others,
Okay.
or why some are always available and others, you got to wait for them.
Yeah.
It's like you're peeling back the layers of an onion,
Interesting.
seeing all those intricate connections that make our world work.
And then you can become a more informed consumer.
Absolutely.
Right.
You start thinking about the environmental impact.
Of the different supply chain models.
Exactly.
So that's a really good point. You might even start making choices that support businesses that are doing things the right way.
Yeah. Prioritizing sustainability, ethical sourcing.
Yeah.
It's all about becoming a more, conscious shopper.
Engaged with where your stuff's coming from.
Exactly. A participant in this global marketplace.
And that's what we're all about here on the Deep Dive.
That's right.
We want to give you the knowledge to understand the world around you a little bit better.
Because knowledge is power, right?
It really is.
When you understand how things work, you can make smarter decisions.
So next time you're, out shopping
Yeah.
or browsing online,
Mm-hmm.
just take a second to think about
Yeah.
how those products got there.
Think about all the work that went into it.
All the resources,
The
the impact it has on the environment.
It really is a hidden world.
Mhm.
So complex.
Mhm.
But once you see it,
Yeah.
you can't unsee it.
It changes how you look at things.
Yeah, you start to
Yeah.
realize every time you buy something,
You're part of it.
you're supporting a certain way of doing things.
It's a powerful realization.
Yeah,
We're not just buying stuff,
No.
We're actually shaping the future.
of global trade.
Exactly. And, maybe this will inspire people
I hope so.
to make different choices,
Yeah.
support businesses that are trying to do things sustainably.
Ethically.
Yeah.
Or even, maybe this will inspire someone to,
Get involved in the field.
get into supply chain management.
It's a fascinating field.
It is. We need more people
Absolutely.
who understand how things work, how to make them better.
Yeah. So keep exploring. Keep asking those questions.
Keep diving deep,
The world's full of mysteries.
waiting to be uncovered.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of supply chains.
It's been fun.
Hope you learned something new. Maybe even changed your perspective a little bit.
Until next time, keep thinking, keep learning.
And we'll see you on the next deep dive.